Okay, so the next thing we want to do with this model, make it a little bit more related to a building possibly. If we imagine this as kind of the core of our building, we want to build kind of the surrounding floor around the core. And how you usually work in Catia is if you know kind of what you're doing, before you start modeling, you set up the way in which you want it to work right away. So say we want this box and we want it just to be a simple offset from this box. We can create a parameter right away that is that offset. So again, we click on this function bar. It's a length parameter, new parameter, and we can call it offset. Specify initial dimension. And now as we build, we can link to that offset parameter as we go, so we don't have to go back and do it later like we did with the points. So again, it's pretty basic. We just do a few points that are offset from these vertice points using this offset parameter. So first we just see what direction we want to go into. We want to offset the corners so they're both negative. So we go to edit formula and we do for each of these negative offset and negative offset. Okay, so we have our first point. So now as we change this offset parameter, the points will move. And now we just want to do that 3 more times. Oops. So for this corner, and you could, so for this one we want to do positive in the y direction, negative in the x. So again, link to these offset parameters. Okay, and then 2 more times. Click the reference. Here we want to do both in the positive direction. So we do offset and offset. Click OK, and then the last one. Okay, so now we have our 4 corner points that are defining our floor plate. Now instead of connecting all this with lines, I'm going to make some polylines that enclose these floor plate parts. To do that, you can go under your line tool, hit polyline, and this works a similar way. You just click all the points that you want to define a line. It'll build it for you as you go. And after you click the last point, just hit close polyline. And now this polyline is still an object in the tree. Again, just like any other object, you can double click on it, go back, it'll tell you which points. And if you want to replace any of these points, you simply click on the point and click the new point. Oh, actually, that builds a new point. But if you want to delete a point, you can also select in here and hit remove. So I'm going to cancel that and make 3 more polylines. Okay. The next step will be to make some surfaces that define this floor plate. And there's a lot of ways to make surfaces in Catia, just like every other object. The most basic one is the fill tool. If we click on that, it basically allows you to select any number of curves that define a closed curve, and then it'll fill it, a closed contour. So since we made polylines, they're already closed contours, we can just select each one and hit OK. And that's going to create these surfaces for us. Okay, and the last one will be the core. You can see here sometimes it's a little difficult to select things, but in that case, if it's difficult to select it in the model view, you can always go back in your tree and select it from there. Since I know that these 4 lines were the lines that are defining the core, you can see if I highlight over them in the tree, they're also highlighted in the model, so you can tell which ones it was. And if I select all 4 lines, that defines a closed contour, and I hit OK. Now the other thing you can do is with each object, there's properties that go along with it that define its name, its colors, and things like that. And you can go into the tree and change the property of any object. So you do that by right-clicking on the object, either in the tree or in the model view. Go to Properties. You can also hit Alt-Enter. This is the shortcut. And here, don't worry about this. In Feature Properties, you have the name, so we can do Core Area. And then Graphic, you can change the color, transparency, line weights, everything to do with the object. So maybe we want to set this to a gray to distinguish it from the floor plates. Okay, I can see it. And this is good sometimes to do if your model gets really complex, to kind of bring out certain things. You can do the same thing with points. Say we want to change these corner points to a different point type or color. You can select multiple of the same kind of object. Go to Properties, and then Graphic, we can select the color. So we want red, the type, and everything like that. So now we can distinguish those points. Okay, so the next part is kind of a really important concept in Catia, and that's encapsulation. Say you're working with objects, but you don't want to keep redefining every object. You can put them into sets and then work with that set as a whole. And say we want to have this set define the whole floor. Say this is the first floor. Now we can work with this set as a whole. If you could right-click the set, you can actually see everything that the whole set relates to. If you right-click on that, you can go to Edit Inputs, and you see that it's really right now just referencing the XY plane. But say we want to copy this whole floor, and we don't want it just referencing the same XY plane. We actually want it referencing a new plane that can specify the height of the floor. So in order to do that, we can make a new plane here in the Plane tool. And plane type, we can do offset from plane. And if we pick this original XY plane, we can define it as a certain height. I put it down there. Okay. Restriction. Okay. I'm actually going to start that over. It's a little weird.